Welcome to Surrender School.
So first of all, the mission statement of Surrender School is at Surrender School, we recover. Our mission is to share 12-step and other supportive recovery solutions to those who want a healthy relationship with food. And those of you where food is not your deal, we have quite a few people here who have other addictions, work a different 12-step program than one of the food programs, and you're very welcome. And we're finding that people are finding recovery, even if it's not about food, which is very good. All right. We are not an official 12-step meeting, but we do adhere to the spirit of the traditions. So, and obviously everybody's welcome here. All right. So here's what's currently going on. We have a Supercharge recovery, which is what this is. The office hours, and we have office hours that are tied to this on Mondays and Thursdays at 8 a.m. and then Monday at 4 p.m., which I've had to cancel the last 2 weeks, but I'll try to do it this week. For some reason, lots of conflicts. Okay. We also have First Friday Enneagram Exchange with Michael Naylor. He will cover the 3 instincts on May 2nd, I think it is. So, and he covers the 3rd one, which is the social instinct, all 3 zones of the social instinct. And then the month after that, he will cover how do you bring your dominant instinct down a little bit and your hidden instinct up a little bit so that you basically have that balance, which I'm really looking forward to that. Okay. We do have a book study on the alchemy of the Enneagram and transforming addiction with Michael Naylor, the author of that book. And it's monthly on Mondays. And this month, it happens to be Monday, the 28th of April. So on Monday is his one thing, and on Friday is his other. I will be out of town, so Linda T is going to be the MC for that. Thank you, Linda. All right. And then we have reading rooms. We have, and the difference between a book study and a reading room is a book study you read on your own, and then you just come in and it's kind of discussed. Whereas the reading rooms, we actually literally read it together. So we have a Drop the Rock Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Pacific time, the AA 12 and 12 Tuesdays at 1:30 Pacific time, and the Alan Berger's Emotional Sobriety book Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 8 to 9. All right, so we have some new stuff coming up. So starting May 3rd is the 12 Steps in 12 Weeks Step Study. And that is Saturday at 10 a.m. Is that 10 a.m.? Is that right, Linda? Okay. All right. 10 a.m. Pacific on Saturday. For some reason, somewhere I had it written at 9 a.m. And so, but 10 a.m. Okay. So it starts on May 3rd. And then also there is a 30-day intensive daily recovery workshop led by Linda T. And that is May 1st through May 31st. So anyway, and that is basically, yeah, it's a daily recovery workshop. If you're coming back from relapse, if you're struggling in any portion of your program, I think that'll be really good. It's really funny. I've committed to this, so I'm coming to it. And then we have to take a trip back to Omaha. I've got other shit going on. I'm like, okay, God, okay, I'll do what I can. Anyway, all right. So then, and then First Friday I've already talked about. Okay. So here's everything that we offer. So consider taking, experiencing, working, attending, taking the past workshops or book studies that are recorded out there. We have a lot of past stuff that's out there, very, very good courses. Experiencing the meditation by steps. Every step has a meditation on Surrender School. They last about 5 minutes, and it's a good way if you're working on a step or working on a step with a sponsor, with a sponsee or a sponsor to do a meditation for that step. Consider working through the steps alone or with a sponsor. We have a lot of options kind of that are out there. Obviously, what we're doing here is working the steps by type, and this is like an entire year worth of stuff. So I'm very thrilled that there's so many people that are doing homework every single week and coming in to share it. It's astounding. It makes me really happy. And then consider attending the in-person retreat that we're going to hold in 2026 in Las Vegas. So start saving your money right now if you're interested in participating or helping with that, the planning of that. When Joy is back from vacation, reach out to her and I'm sure she'll pull a committee together. Okay. All of this can be found on surrenderschool.org. And then also consider being a volunteer. Reach out to Lori. You can see her there. You can chat with her if you, we always have volunteer positions open, and anything anybody can do is very helpful. Thank you. All right. If Surrender School has helped your recovery, consider donating. We are a 501(c) in the United States, which is a not-for-profit organization. None of us take any money for any of the work that we do, but we do have expenses. So the web expenses, Zoom expenses, obviously, and then as we're doing the retreat, I'm sure there'll be expenses for that as well. So consider donating. It's really nice because we have 12-step people and they're already used to donating. So that's kind of nice. Okay. Consider joining the Surrender School WhatsApp group. It's kind of nice because people will kind of communicate things throughout that. And I always, when I'm doing my office hours, I'll send something that says that they're open or the reading room's open and that kind of stuff. And Rosalind does that on her Tuesdays. And then Lori does that for Drop the Rock. So it's kind of nice because if you've forgotten, it's not on your calendar or something, or if you've forgotten that your day has gotten away from you, it's kind of nice to get that. It reminds you to come to the meeting. And then consider signing up for the daily Ennea Thought from the Enneagram Institute at enneagraminstitute.com. It gives you Enneagram stuff for your type. I think you can get 2 of them. So your type and maybe one of your wings, or your type and your spouse's type, or whatever. Okay. All right. Let's take a moment to feel your breath going in and out of your body and feel your feet on the floor. As much as possible, let's be present. Let go of everything that happened before here and anything that may happen later. And then together, let's say the set-aside prayer. God, help me to set aside everything I think I know to leave space for what I have yet to learn. Okay. The goal of this is a personal journey. That's the reason it's by type instead of just a generic. It's very, very specific type. Our focus is to help you understand the relationship between your false self, or that personality that very often we show up in the world as, and then our true self. And to treat yourself with unrelenting compassion because you're human. And the compassion is the key to all of this. I think there's so much in Surrender School. If there was like an underlying thing, it is, how can you treat yourself with unrelenting compassion? It is all about loving yourself through, because you're human. And I love that. Okay. All right. So some things to consider. First, I don't have it written here, but I'm not an expert on anything. I am a facilitator. That's what I do. I'm a trainer. So, and this happens to be what I'm teaching at this time. So, but I get deep enough so that I can explain it as well as I can explain it. But I'm not a guru of anything. All right. So now you work the steps by type, which means you need to know your type in order to do that without driving yourself crazy. So you'll want to take the test and then it'll guide you to a specific type. If the test has guided you and you're like, yeah, none of this is resonating, then probably the test was inaccurate, although most of the tests are relatively accurate. Okay. One of the underlying things, one of the reasons we talk about feeling unrelenting compassion for yourself is because of the belief that self-contempt stops spiritual growth. That if you want to grow spiritually, and if you hate yourself or feel contempt and say mean things to yourself and you're such a loser and that kind of stuff, that will stop spiritual growth. It stops it in its tracks. And we cannot grow if we are hating ourselves. And so even if it's a nicer life to not hate yourself, but more than anything else, if you want to grow spiritually, you really want to work on, how do I feel compassion for myself, right? For me, it was very helpful to realize that I'm an 8 and I'm wired like an 8. And I literally was like, oh, I'm wired this way. That's why I'm this way. And it doesn't mean it's an excuse for bad behavior, because it isn't. But the minute I could do that and say, oh, okay, and then be able to say, I'm human. I make mistakes. It's part of the human experience. Then I was allowed to grow spiritually in leaps and bounds sometimes. Okay. All right. So we do believe if you do the work, your recovery will be supercharged. And we're finding that that is true. The pilot program is the reason that we named it Supercharged, because everybody was like, oh my God, right? I'm being supercharged. Okay. I bring this up all the time because I want to talk about the patterns. That's what we're really talking about. This is from A.H. Almas, who is a guru of the Enneagram. And what he says is inquiry, which is asking questions, which is what we're doing as we go through this. What happens is you recognize patterns as patterns, and your projections, or those stories you tell yourself, you recognize them as stories that you're telling yourself. And the minute that begins to happen, the more then you get to see reality the way that it is, and those stories will dissipate, and the patterns, you recognize them, see them, and then especially in steps 6 and 7, those will begin to dissipate and sometimes disappear. right, then just don't be surprised when, it comes roaring back, because that's the way the ego structure works. But once you start recognizing the patterns as patterns, the projections as projections, that's when the true change happens. So that's the reason I keep bringing this one up, because I want everybody to remember that's what we're looking for, are what are the patterns in my life that keep happening, and what are the projections that, what's the story I'm telling myself about whatever this is. All right. Now, after the breakout rooms, I'm going to ask you to stick around if you're interested in this. I'm going to walk you through the step 5 pages. They're not out where you can see them. But I'm going to walk you through the secret page. I'm going to walk you through that because I want you to see how this step is going to work this time around. And I think it's good. And I'm not expecting you to remember it. I just want to kind of show it to you. And then I'll do it again next week. I'll show it to you again. And this week and next week are going to be almost identical, except for the shares, obviously, but they're going to be almost identical. First of all, because there's fewer people that are here and there's quite a few that are missing, but also because this is the best way to say this. If you are new to 12 steps, this step 5, it won't be difficult to follow, I don't think. It'll be relatively easy, good explanation. However, if you have done the 12 steps before, it's just different enough, right, that it's going to be a little bit confusing, because it's just enough different from the typical 12 step that it's like there's just nuances to it that we think are very powerful. So hang around. And once again, lots of questions if you have questions. And if you want just to reach out to me and ask questions, that's fine. Or even Linda T also, because she was part of the pilot group too. All right. Okay, so our opening stuff. I am going for this opening share. I'm just going to ask, how are you using community? And I can mean this community. I can mean your 12-step community. How are you using community in your recovery? And I think, especially because as we move into steps 5, 6, and 7, we're going to be using community a lot more than we have in the past. I'm going to stop sharing and just open this for shares. If anybody wants to talk about how are you using community in your 12-step? Make this full screen. All right. Anybody want to talk about that? I can't believe we have almost 40 people. That's astounding. Go ahead, Liz.
I'm really not the person to use the community. Really not. So for me, using it is being here today. If you noticed, I missed a lot of meetings and readings because I was working and I didn't expect I would be. It was so temporary, it's just seasonal. And if you didn't notice, well, I will feel not important. And it's not because I think I am important. It's because I need the others, you, I need to be made feel important. And that's very humbling for me to say. So, that's what I wanted to say, that for me, using the community, showing up, because I tell you, because I missed so many meetings, because I didn't do my resentments yet. I was not to show up. I was feeling so remote when I was not to show up. So since I live alone, I don't have close friends. This is really a community for me. And showing up, like I had to force myself. I came a bit in advance because I say, oh, I will skip it. Yeah. Thank you for being there, being a community.
Thank you, Liz. I want to say, if you didn't get your assignment done, that is no reason not to come at all. Please come anyway. Nobody is judging you. You do as much as you can. And literally, sometimes it's as much as you have time for, and sometimes it's as much as you have energy for, and sometimes you're like, can't do it. I just can't do it. Don't want to do it. Whatever it is, fine.
Well, actually, this is just 5 minutes before this, but was a very deep, profound lesson.
Should we go to a Safeway?
Wait. Somebody's talking. I don't know who. Go
I
ahead,
was
Liz.
here for myself and not how I look or how I perform, and that I was here for my good, because I need to be here, even if I'm not doing the work, which probably I will do, but that will still be good to me, and I have to hang on to this community. So that was a very profound lesson, because that made it so much simpler.
Yeah. Yeah, and once again, I've said before that you really do get out of it what you put into it, but that is not an indictment saying that you should put more into it. It literally just says that a fact of life is the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. And if you can't put a lot into it, it's okay. Just don't expect to get a lot out of it. It's okay. It's absolutely okay. Because I think we're going to do this year after year after year after year. You're going to get sick of us, right? So anyway, and the other thing I want to say is I do notice when people are gone, and I almost, I mean, I will often send something that just says, we miss you, but I don't want to be a stalker, right? Where somebody's like, Jesus, this woman can't leave me alone. So I try to be careful there, but I do notice when people are gone, especially the ones that regularly show up for the reading room and so forth, right? Like Sarah, I know once a week you come to the reading room, and if you weren't there, I would miss you. I would know that you were gone. And Liz, whenever you're gone, I miss you, right? So certainly, and I think that's true. And that's one of the things too at Drop the Rock. There's a regular people that come at the AA 12 and 12. There's regular people that come, the office hours, there's regular. And if somebody hasn't come for a while, I do usually send something. I try to, but I don't want to be a stalker. So I don't like, where have you been? I don't do that. But but maybe I'll start. No, I'm kidding. Okay. All right. So thank you very much, Liz. All right, Jim, to you.
Hello, everyone. Hi. Community. I've found a community in the various fellowships that I was in the past, and in particular Surrender School, to be really important. They'd be really important because I've been able to express my truths, be understood and not judged, and to hear others speak sincerely also. Now, given the exercise this week, as a 4, I need the depth. As a type 4, for some reason, it seems to speak truth to me, because I am quite a deep person, you know. So the Enneagram knows me better than I know myself, and I'm okay with that, because I learned so much, and I learn through this community to be accepting of myself and my experiences, and to know that not to be judged on these experiences, and more importantly, I think, not judging myself, not always beating down on myself. I'm learning this, not to be critical of myself, and it's thanks to so many people at various work groups that I've been involved with, and more so Surrender School, because it's the place I've spent most time. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Jim. Yeah, and I think, Michael Naylor says when he first read the Enneagram, he was horrified that it described him so perfectly, right? And then it's like that first is horrified, and then it's like, oh, wait a minute. I'm wired this way. There are other people like me. There are other people that look at the world the way that I do, right? It's awesome. So thank you, Jim. All right, Ruth, to you.
Yeah, thank you. Said something earlier that I've been kind of working with lately, which is recognizing our patterns, and not just recognizing them, but naming them, right? Like, that is one of your patterns, friend. I'm pretty private and don't really like being in large groups of people, but recently I have felt compelled to be in a couple of groups of large people, super anxious about it. Like, I had to drive there by myself. I had to be there by myself. I was like, I don't want to do any of this. but yet I knew I had to. So one of them was yesterday, and I saw a lot of people that I knew from like from when I was in college. So that was a real long time ago. And a couple of people said, "Oh, I had hoped I would run into you here." And I thought, what? What are you talking about? And I have this perception of how I look and how I sound and all these things. And as I was looking at a few thousand people, I thought, you look just like anybody else. You sound just like anybody else. You dress just like anybody else, and I was able to say, oh, yeah, those are the things I tell myself that I'm filling all the blanks, right? So this has been so helpful to me because I've been able to challenge myself in ways that I hadn't necessarily before, because now I can question whether something is a pattern. I'm a 9. No, amongst 9s, it is one pattern common to 9s. And then as I challenge myself, both kind of see the truth of some of those. So it's been super helpful in terms of community, because it's actually enabling me to, I would say, move forward in real life community where, again, I don't like crowds of people. So, but anyways, it's been very helpful. Thanks.
Good, good. Thank you, Ruth. All right, Deborah, to you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I just think that, ditto to everything that's already been said, but I almost wondered if I should just lower my hand here. But for me, as an introverted extrovert, I can be social, but I think it kind of wears me out. And I also have a lot of like internal insecure little girl. Ooh, am I okay? Do they really like me? I'm not, you know what I mean? There's a lot of that, unfortunately, still happening. And um, so I'm just really grateful that, like, for the strength of the group, the strength of people to keep coming back and to be there, and that I can join in when I'm ready and when I have the energy to do it. But I really appreciate that, um, that I don't feel any kind of like I have to speak every day or whatever. I don't have, but I can be here and listen and learn so much. Um, when people share honestly, it takes away my shame. When people are just showing up, it takes away my feeling of aloneness, that I'm alone either in the world or in recovery. And I'm just so grateful for the community. And I know I don't maybe look like it or share this very often, but I truly am. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. I want to say, I mentioned this, I think, last week. The final line of a poem by John Donne says, "He also serves who only stands and waits." So I believe if you feel the need to share, then you share. And if you don't feel the need to share, because this is just a day you're observing, that is perfectly fine. Those of you who know me know that if necessary, I can fill in the blanks. I could talk forever if I need to. No, I would be quiet. I would try to be quiet anyway. But yeah, so please feel, I love when people share, but I also understand that everybody feels the need to share all the time. And sometimes 12-step programs will guilt us into sharing to claim our seats. You don't have to do anything to claim your seat. You're here. So anyway, and I'm very glad you're here. Okay, Sarah, to you.
Hi. So I started going to Al-Anon meetings in 2020 during COVID, and I had zero recovery, or I had no 12-step friends really, and I was extremely isolated. I had isolated it wasn't anyone's fault but my own. I had isolated myself from my loved ones. And so I remember, and I went to this meeting, and I would go every day at like noon, and it was like 120 people. And so it wasn't very easy to kind of make friends. And I prayed and prayed and prayed. And I was learning to trust my higher power for friends in recovery. And this was before I even had a sponsor. And I slowly started to make friends. I mean, I started recovery in November of 2020. So I'm coming up on 5 years in November. And anyway, so I guess my point is that I didn't really know what my journey was going to end up as, and I didn't really know how I was going to start letting people in, even though I knew I needed to. And I needed people to talk to because I was in a really bad place at the time. Anyway, and my higher power showed up, which is kind of what I started making friends in that meeting. I started making friends in a different recovery meeting, and now I go to one in-person meeting a week, and I've made a community there. And I've also discovered this group about a year ago. And so I've been coming to these meetings and building community here too. And so that's been really a blessing, a miracle, I think, because and now I've let the right people, people who aren't in my 12-step but close friends and family, I've eventually got to a place where I could start letting them in too. And that was also a blessing because I had definitely been keeping people out because I had so much shame. And so I think that's what the community gave me, was that I got to learn how, excuse me, my cat, he's a crazy person. I got to learn how to trust people. In CODA, we say that you learn to have relationships with people that are your equals. And that's what I've learned in recovery. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. And I probably butchered that from CODA, but I could find it and put it in there anyway with that I pass.
Thank you, Sarah. Dave, to you.
Yeah, hi everybody. It's good to be here. Haven't been here as much as I would like the last couple weeks because we were taking care of our granddaughters and in Dallas. And I had the illusion that we would be able to do stuff like this and take care of them at the same time. And it, for the most part, just didn't work. I mean, Clara, our 4-year-old granddaughter, if she sees herself anywhere on camera, she's mugging for the camera and wanting to get, and I'm sure other people were entertained by that, but it was really distracting. So, but anyway, I really realized being away from here for the most part for the last couple weeks, how important this community that we have here is to me. Because I really have missed participating and I have had the same idea that a couple other people mentioned. Well, if I haven't done the homework, then what do I have to contribute? So I shouldn't even go. And there were some times this week where we were back at home where I could have showed up, but I didn't because I hadn't done any work. So, but probably would have been a good thing for me to show up and just say hi anyway. But anyway, I just wanted to say one other thing. I want to mention two other things. One is I got to give a shout out to people who live in different time zones than the Pacific, because it's amazing to me how much math I had to do to figure out a 2-hour times difference. It would seem to be pretty simple, but I see Sarah in Texas nodding her head. We were in Texas and I'm like, wait, so 2 hours is 2 hours earlier there. So what time is that here? We got screwed up a couple times on meetings that we were supposed to be doing. I mean, commitments we had that we were supposed to be doing that we got the time messed up. But people who can keep track of that, who are not in the Pacific time zone, I congratulate you. And the other is I started to realize too why there's not too many people in this group who have young children at home, probably because they're just, it'd be too distracting. I mean, we're out of practice taking care of little kids, and we had a wonderful time, but I can't really give the attention I need to a meeting like this while I've got a 4-year-old who's hungry and a baby that needs a diaper changed and whatever. It's just like, it helped me understand too why when our kids were little, I did not participate in anything like this nearly as much as I do now. So anyway, good to see all of you. Thanks.
Thank you. So someone asked me where that poem is, and it's actually not John Donne. It's John Milton who wrote Paradise Lost, but it's not for Paradise Lost. It's John Milton. So hey, give me a break. It's 50 years since I was literature major. No, I'm kidding. Actually, I'm not kidding. But anyway, so it's John Milton, and it's from something, a poem that he wrote about losing his sight. So anyway, if you want to look it up, it's John Milton. And if you Google that, he also serves who only stands and waits, it'll tell you more information on that. Yeah, so I'm almost guaranteed I will always tell you the wrong name, the wrong poet, the wrong author, the wrong star in a movie, almost always. So I probably shouldn't talk about it if I was going to do that. Okay, so thank you, Dave. And yeah, and I think this is what's fascinating is people in different phases of their life, right? That's the reason, by the way, that you do what you can do. And sometimes the can't part is just, it's not even time or energy. It's just like, I'm not in a space to be able to do it. And that's fine, because you come anyway, you come here anyway. And here's why you do. Because somebody, it's entirely possible, somebody is going to say something that is going to trigger you to go into writing something that you would have never even thought about. And then you're going to see a pattern that you didn't even realize that you had, because so much of what we study is in our blind spot. We don't even see it. And then someone will say something and you go, wait a minute, is that me too? And then you can see it. And awareness comes first. So that's the reason you come, whether you've done your homework or not. I can guarantee you there will not be, I can't believe there's 40 people. Of the 40 people here, there will never be a time when no one has done the homework. That will never happen. Right? And some people will do it like right then, or you'll be able to just extemporaneously talk about what hit you. And that's all perfect. All of that is good. Right? Because that's the way we really and truly live our lives. So let's celebrate that that's the way we live our lives. It's all good. There will always be people who have did the homework, even if it's not you, says the girl who did do the homework. I'm kidding. I did do the homework. I'm teasing. All right. Maria Goretti, I see your hand is up. Go ahead.
Thanks, Cher, and everybody that does service. Community. Well, for a while, I used to belong to 12-step programs in person and had dreamt about what I have today, the gifts that keep on giving. And then when COVID hit, it changed my life completely, as it did the world, and for the better. Even though there were like a lot of different things going on, as it was for everybody. And I didn't believe for a second that online meetings, which were new to me, could build any community with myself, that is. And I thought, well, it's just not going to happen. How can I have a connection with somebody on a computer or a phone? And how wrong was I? And off the back of that, I have found my new worldwide family and even made one or two friendships. And it's astonishing. It's unlike anything else I've experienced before. It's this smorgasbord of recovery and things that are completely new to me, I've never heard of. And, you know, across the world, I have no words for it. So, yes, I have actually met some people in person from across the world. And it's, well, I'm lost for words, really. Okay, you know, Enneagram is new to me, and I've recently discovered I've got some folders in my garden, which I can't sound delighted about, but the growth it's offering me is mind-blowing. And although I don't have the full picture yet, it's quite confusing to me at the moment. I am so grateful for every time I go online, which is a lot, I learn something new about myself and about recovery. And so thank you. I'm very grateful.
Awesome. Thank you. So Tamara, we're going to move on, but I will write your name down and you will be the first person to share when we come back after the breakout. Okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Let me share my screen again. All right. Okay. So what I want to talk about a little bit. I thought this picture was cute. I thought these little girls walking down the street together. I have a friend that used to say that's what program is. We're just little girls walking each other home. So I really like this picture. Okay. So in step 5, when it's time for us to do step 5, I'm calling the person who's going to listen to your step 5. I'm calling them a kind observer. And the reason I'm calling them a kind observer as opposed to a sponsor, even though out on the website, it talks about sponsor because obviously originally the plan was to have you deliver this to your sponsor, and it still can be that. That's not a problem. But a lot of us are not sponsors, but we can be kind observers. So I'm going to come from the perspective of the kind observer. And the word kind means of a benevolent nature, right? And that just means it is a giving, listening, right? Like that kind of a nature, a benevolent nature. And the observer is someone who observes and reports, but does not participate. And they are intended to regard with attention so that they can see something. So those are the definitions there. So the kind observer is kindly observing, not participating, and regarding with attention. So really paying attention so that they can see something. So, which is, now some of you that may sound exactly like the step 5 that your sponsor has done with you in the past, which is awesome, but not all people do it that way. Sometimes it's much more give and take. Sometimes there's advice given and all that. That's not what the point of step 5 is, nor is step 5's point for you to live in your story. It isn't. That is not the intention. The intention literally is for you to figure out what are your defenses. That's ego structure that built up so you can see the defenses that you have. So let's talk about a second about the kind observer and what has to happen. And I just grabbed this from the web. Key active listening skills. Okay. So the first thing is to pay attention. Obviously, that makes sense. You're going to pay attention to what they're saying. The second, and I've circled that one because it's like withholding judgment. That means even if the person is completely different than you are, it's okay. Just withhold judgment, right? Because it's not your job to judge, to tell them they should be something different, do something different. And by the way, I want to talk for a second about if part of the step 5 is the way you should be, right? Well, you should forgive that person. You should, whatever the should is. What can happen there is you leap over whatever is the bad feelings you're feeling to land on where you should be, which means you didn't go through. And the only way out is through. You have to go through, which means you have to feel it. You have to write about it. You have to talk about it. You have to, and then eventually at some point in time, the sun rises and you go, oh, okay, I get it. But if you leap over it, and that's a lot of times what happens, which by the way, in the big book, when he talks about when you're all finished, you feel like you can take on the world. You feel so good. You feel so relaxed. So many people don't feel that, and they don't feel that because somebody has said back to them, you know what you should do, you know what you should feel. I don't need any shoulds at all, right? So I don't take shoulds, by the way, because I'm an 8, but a lot of people do. All right, and then, okay, so that's what's happening. You're paying attention, you're withholding any judgment at all, and then you're going to reflect, which means you're going to pause and take a look at all the stuff because you're taking notes. The 8 is taking, the kind observer is taking notes. They're taking notes, right? And then they're going to ask any questions so that they can clarify. And then basically you're going to summarize. And what that means is you do the math. And it sounds something like this. We've been together 40 minutes. Hopefully it's not 40 seconds or 40 years. But anyway, we've been together 40 minutes. And you have said the word fear 72 times. Okay. Or you said something that sounded like having to be in control 42 times. That's the math you're doing. Because more than likely that person might have a glimmer that that's one of their defenses, but they may not know that that is one of their defenses. So that's one of the reasons, by the way, we have the list of words. We have the list of words at the top. We have a list of words in the blanks. We have a list of words that you've come up with. I have the list of words from your nature stuff, right? You have all these lists of words because you're going to pull that list together and give it to the person that's going to listen to this and say, basically, you're listening for words like this. And then you, as the person who's giving the step 5, you're just going to forget the list and just talk. You're going to not talk about the story. It's this person, I resent them for this. And then you're going to talk about how did I feel? How did I act? How did I feel? How did I act? How did I feel? How did I act? That's what we really want to focus on. Because as we're talking about how do I feel? How do I act? A 6 is going to say fear 45 times. they're going to say that, right? An 8 is going to say, I need to control 87 times, right? I mean, in some form or other, that's going to come out. And so what's happening in the step 5 is this person is reflecting back to me. And then the final piece that we talk about, right, is what you are sharing is actually the defenses that you want them to consider. It doesn't mean that, I mean, if I'm listening to your step 5, I'm not going to say, here's the problem. No, I'm going to say, you said this 45 times. That's probably something you want to take a look at. I mean, it literally is just like that, because 6 and 7 is where the power is. And I think it is so rare for people to realize that usually people make a big deal of 4 and 5. 4 and 5 is just intended for us to come up with the defenses that we're going to ask our greater power to help us handle. So 6 and 7 is where the power is. So what we want is a list of 4 or 5 or 1, whatever, a list of the defenses that are jump up without my permission, that I can say in step 6, I can say, okay, greater power, I give these to you. I don't want them. And the fact that I don't call them defects, the fact that I can say, this is a defense that jumps up without my permission, right? I don't want that anymore. I want this dissipated. I want that to be gone. The fact that I see the pattern, and this kind observer has helped me to see the pattern, means that I have at least the shot, I have the chance of making that happen. Okay. One other thing I want to talk about is I went to Michael Naylor and I asked him specifically, I said, okay, so now we're going to get into step 5 and we're going to be doing this stuff on step 5. So are there any specific types that should work with any specific types, right? And this was, I pulled it right out of the email. He said, Cheryl, no type specific advice on observing. Those who have learned to observe themselves with compassion and non-judgment will be able to pass this on to others. It doesn't matter what the type is, but rather the awareness level of self-observation. And I thought that was just absolutely amazing. Okay, so let's see, can I do this? Yes. All right. If you are interested in being a kind observer, and we have a list of kind observers from last week, every one of them I know, and every one of them will be a wonderful, wonderful kind observer. I was so excited when I saw the list. There are others here that if you are willing to do that, it would be awesome. And once again, we're going to do a lot of it in the structure here. And then, of course, the actual sharing probably will be outside of the room, but there'll be quite a bit of stuff that we're doing in the room. So if you can observe without judgment, pay attention, are willing to reflect, ask some questions to right, do the summary where you basically do the math, right? And say, you said this, something like this, 27 times, 5 times even, right? And then just basically say, so it looks like these might be some of the defenses that you want to work on in step 6. Okay. And can everybody feel that that the feel of that is very non-judgmental? It's not, so you should be something else. That is not the intention of 5. It's basically for us to help define those defenses so that we can work on them in 6 and 7. Okay. So I'm going to give everybody right now a chance to and it's going to be just for a couple of minutes. I want you to write down 3 to 5 people from Surrender School that you'd be willing to give your step 5 to. Okay, using the Supercharge method. So just take them, and I think because we're on Cheryl time, it's going to be a minute. Jot down the name, and I'm going to get out of here so you can see it. You're going to jot down the names of a couple people that when they share, they really resonate with you. It's like, oh, this might be something, even if they're not a kind observer or anything. It doesn't matter. It's like, these are people that I would like to talk to. I wouldn't mind sharing with them. That's what we're going to do. Just a list. I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, you can look around. There's a few people that are missing that you've heard from before. Just jot it down. You're not going to announce this to anybody, including them, right? At all. This is just for you. These are people I wouldn't mind doing, right? I could make a list of like 45 people that I would give mine to. Yes, I'm willing to torture you. So just take a minute to do that. I'm going to time it on my watch. Okay, does everybody have a list of people that you wouldn't mind doing that with? Okay. Carmen, thank you for the question. I'll get that to Lori and we'll get it on the website. Yeah, you're welcome. All right, so let me share again real quick here. All right, now here's the thing. You can now see my screen. That's a good thing. All right, next week, we're going to take 5 minutes for people to chat with other people who are on your list to see if they have time to observe. Now, this doesn't mean, by the way, that you're not going to share this with your sponsor, because you can, and you can just choose just your sponsor if you want to. But we are trying to help facilitate people working with other people within our community. And I'll talk more specifically about how you're going to make that happen. But this is something right now, you have a list of 3 to 5 people where you go, I wouldn't mind those people. And then next week, we're going to sit down and say, okay, in the chat, you'll reach out to that specific person and say, hey, would you be willing to be my kind observer? Right? And since it doesn't matter by type, I was making this much more specific, or much more difficult than it needed to be. I'll put it that way. I was making it more difficult than it needed to be. Hold on, let me do this real quick. Okay, there we go. Let me put this back in presentation mode. All right. So now what we're going to do is we are going to go into the breakout room. Right, I'm going to stop sharing here real quick. All right. Wow. Okay. So the breakout room is about the fears launch questions. Those of you that did the fears launch questions, this for me was one of the most difficult, because it's really hard for me to admit that I am afraid, and I am a chicken shit afraid of everything. So, but it's really hard for me to admit that, because it sounds weak to me, right? So, and I know that that's a gotcha for me. I don't know if it is for all 8s, but it's certainly for me. Okay. So this is the launch questions, is what you're sharing. If you have worked on them, awesome. If you have not worked on them, then see once you're listening to things, see if things pop up, because that's a decent thing to share as well. So real quick, I want to say what will happen next week. We're not missing a lot of people, probably about 10 people. But next week, some people will include the launch questions along with their other shares. So we might make the shares a little bit longer, just because some people were able to be here this week. The other thing that happens sometimes, and I know, Deborah, you do this, which I really appreciate, on Mondays and Thursdays at office hours, if you haven't had a chance to share in here, some people come in and they share their stuff during the office hours, and right, which I think is great. I think that's a wonderful thing to do. So it's basically the same thing, except in a group. It's because the office hours, about 10, 12 people, something like that. And that works out nicely. Interesting too, I want to talk for a second about the 6s. Okay. So all of us have fears. Bill W. talks about that's the thread that goes through everything. We're all afraid. Everybody is. Now, as an 8, I will deny fear, right? Because, I'm strong. So I will deny fear, but it's still there. And if I admit, okay, yes, I'm afraid, I'm afraid and I do it anyways, generally what happens. Here's what's interesting. If you want to really feel what a 6 feels, imagine that every time you felt a fear, it popped into your head, you dumped adrenaline on that fear. Imagine that. That is what a 6 feels like. It's like on fire, right? It's not just this kind of ambiguous fear, right? And so, yeah. And one of the things that I'm working on is trying to understand all the different types, like from the perspective is how would I feel if I were that, right? Like that. And so anyway, I think it's fascinating. All right. Good time. Everybody have good stuff. Okay. So I think what we're going to do, I'm going to say one more thing here, and then we're going to say the Serenity Prayer close, and then we're open for the next half an hour. Okay. So one of the things I want to say is, and I've said this before, but I'm going to continue to say it. Most people, when you work a 12-step program, those that have been through it, right, there's a lot of focus on step 4 and 5. Then everybody jumps over 6 and 7, and there's a lot of focus on 8 and 9. We are doing it differently. 4 and 5 is completely a setup for 6 and 7. All of this that we're doing right now is to set 6 and 7 up. So 6 and 7, because that's where the power is. Everything else is our power. 6 and 7 is our greater power. That's where the greater power basically comes in and helps us get rid of our defenses. And if you've never worked a 12-step program in that way, that's why I keep talking about step 6 and 7. So 4 and 5, even though 4 and 5 has historically felt, oh, such a big deal, it's really not. other than the fact that it introduces you, right? Like for me, here, Cheryl. Yes, you're afraid. You see that that is a defense that you have. Here, Cheryl. Here's right. Here is something you thought that you were over long ago with, and you're not. It's a defense that jumps up without your permission. This might be something that you're going to ask your higher power about, or your greater power about in step 6. So that is what 4 and 5 is about, is to get us ready to talk about this and work on this in 6 and 7. Right? And then the kind observer helps you see the patterns that you may not be seeing. And I think some of the people that came back early talked about how we don't even realize it. We're using the same word or similar words over and over and over and over, and we don't know it. This is why you have a kind observer who says, do you know that you said this word or something like it 52 times? That's why you do the math. Right? And that's not the way it usually is, but that is what this time around, that's what it's going to be. So I'm excited about that. Okay. So I'm going to say the Serenity Prayer real quick, and then I'll open it. And I think, Tamara, you had something. If you still want to, raise your hand if you would. Let's go ahead and say the Serenity Prayer together. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. All right.
Thanks for recovering with us.